All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. In this current pass happy National Football League, it is still difficult to win without the ability to run the ball. Now, gone are the days of 3 yards in a cloud of dust or student body right. But nonetheless, you still need to run the ball in the NFL in order to be successful. Now, playing running back in the NFL is very grueling, and it's not for the faint of heart, as a ball carrier is one bad injury away from his career wasting away. There was a time when a runner in the NFL was the glamour position for the likes of Gale Sayers, Jim Brown, Walter Payton, Emmett Smith, Barry Sanders, and countless others. But now more than ever, running backs in the NFL are being discarded like chocolate the day after Valentine's Day, as teams are simply playing the "What have you done for me lately" card, while the analytics are showing that it's not wise to give ball carriers big money for big years. Now, I'm bringing this up because this offseason we've seen the Minnesota Vikings release running back Dalvin Cook, a Pro Bowler who has gained more than 1,000 yards in each of the last 4 years. The Giants slapped the franchise tag on running back Saquon Barkley, and both sides have yet to agree on a long term deal. And Barkley has not signed his tag. And of course, training camp is set to begin next month. Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders, he, like Barkley, got hit with the franchise tag. You think about some running backs that are still out there. Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette are two that just come to mind. And of course, in the cases of both Hunt and Fournette, they've never really been the featured guy, if you will. Both are like in their late 20s, but nonetheless, they still have some mileage out there, but they still currently remain unemployed. Ezekiel Elliott is still on the market. But to me, I think it's going to be interesting to see if Zeke gets a contract because, his best impact in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys came those first 3 years when he was fresh out of Ohio State and he came onto the scene like gangbusters. And between him getting that big contract and, to me, he just doesn't have that burst that he did earlier in his career. And because of that, it's going to be interesting to see if he does get a contract at all over the summer. But Zeke and all these other guys, it's just so tough to remain durable at the running back position. And the market for them is showing that. And I say that because this offseason, of the backs that have been signed, Miles Sanders got the biggest deal. And that occurred when the former Philadelphia Eagles ball carrier got 4 years for $25 million from the Carolina Panthers. The money simply is not there for this position. Teams are not investing that much into the position, especially for long years, due to the fact that guys can get injured, guys have tread on the tires, and more teams are going with the running back by committee. So when did the feature back go out of vogue in the NFL? And I'll say this, and this is just my opinion. Please feel free, to chime in if you think I'm wrong. Feel free to chime in if you think I'm right as well. Uh, but it's one of those scenarios where, I think back to the Denver Broncos of the late 90s. And of course, first it was Terrell Davis running behind that powerful offensive line. Then, the likes of Mike Anderson and Alandis Gary. And Mike Shanahan, the Broncos head coach at the time, he made sure to have a bevy of running backs available should somebody go down. First, TD went down with the knee injury, and the Broncos offense really didn't skip a beat, at least running the ball. Then it was Mike Anderson, and then it was Alandis Gary, because Mike Shanahan focused so much on developing that offensive line. I also think back to the mid 2000s, 2005 to be exact, where we saw three running backs taken in the top 10 that year. Cadillac Williams out of Auburn going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His collegiate teammate Ronnie Brown going to the Miami Dolphins, Cedric Benson out of Texas going to the Chicago Bears. None of those guys were able to live up to the lofty expectations that were placed on them coming out of school due to injuries. And I think, really since then, unless a player was a special guy, have you seen him drafted that high at the running back position? We saw it with Ezekiel Elliott with the Dallas Cowboys. We saw it with Saquon Barkley with the New York Giants when he was taken second overall. And then, of course, future Hall of Famer Adrian Peterson. Now, in that mix, just because it doesn't work out for some doesn't mean it's not going to work out for others. You think about Frank Gore. Frank Gore came into the NFL in 2005 as well. And Frank Gore had the knee injuries at the University of Miami. And now that his career is over, you're talking about Frank Gore's third all time in the NFL in rushing, period, with 16,000 career yards. You also think about some of the bell cow guys, over the years, most recently, of course, LaDainian Tomlinson, who is seventh all time. You think about Curtis Martin as well, but it's all about the wear and tear of that position. For me, Emmett Smith's record is going to stand a very long time. When you're talking about Emmett Smith, you're talking about a man who got more than 18,000 yards on the ground. That's going to stand for a long time for a variety of reasons. Number one, there's no secret. Emmett ran through caverns, if you will, behind that massive offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. But even with that said, by the time that Emmitt Smith got to the Arizona Cardinals, he was a shell of himself at running back. But nonetheless, that bringing it back to the present, will a guy like Saquon Barkley get the payday that he's seeking? It's going to be very tough, and the market has dictated that this offseason. You think about the money that Christian McCaffrey got from the Carolina Panthers before he was traded to the San Francisco 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is finally showing that impact in San Francisco as he's an all around guy. He's a runner, he's a receiver, you name it. But nonetheless, between Christian McCaffrey's deal and, after Dallas paid Ezekiel Elliott, and he never was the same guy. And it's so difficult because running backs, they got 3 or 4 years on them in college. They got 4 years for the most part in high school, and by the time they get to the NFL, that's a lot of tread on the tires, as it is, because you see scenarios where guys are getting 250 to 300 carries in college, and now they're coming into the NFL, and everybody's not going to be a Walter Payton where they're going to be able to consistently take that many carries at the position and keep going. Running backs, they have such a short shelf life in the NFL. It's always going to be tough for them to get the money that they want and that they seek, being that teams in the NFL always have an eye for the future. And I think now, more than ever, with the competitive and contending teams in the NFL, we're seeing teams focus on having depth at all positions, treating it more like, excuse me, a college roster. We saw it this past season with the Eagles when they had so much depth at the running back position. We saw it, of course, with the Kansas City Chiefs, who won the NFL championship, and so many other contenders as well. It's one of those. I still think running backs in the NFL, running backs in football, period, they bring such glamour to it. And I mean, a guy like me who, grew up watching the Eric Dickersons, the Tony Dorsetts, the Bo Jacksons, and, I can just go right down the list of the phenomenal runners and the phenomenal runners that, came after them, the Barry Sanders and Emmett Smiths, the Marshall Falks, the Curtis Martins, the LaDainian Tomlinsons, and so many others. But nonetheless, it's so difficult. I think, though, even though that we're seeing a scenario where the analytics are pushing it, even where we see a scenario where, the optics are telling teams to do everything but pay these running backs the money, I think periodically you're going to get that guy that goes against the norm. You're going to get that guy that, you can trust excuse me, to go out there and be your feature guy. You're going to get that guy who's going to go out there and give you those impact yards. That's just the nature of the beast. But when it's all said and done, it's still going to be tough for those guys to get the paydays that they're seeking. Saquon Barkley and so many others are finding that out this offseason in the NFL. It's just simply one of those playing choosing or being at the wrong position because the quarterbacks are going to get the big money and the receivers and the offensive tackles, but the running backs, the bell cow guys, it's just an uphill battle for them to get those big paydays. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.